Welcome back, boxing fans, to another great show with Sean on Boxing. Today we're live talking about this weekend's matchups, especially Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois, a super fight, a legitimate contest, 50-50 matchup between two of the best fighters in heavyweight boxing today. Stay tuned, and we'll get back to you after these commercials. Welcome back, everyone. So today we're going to be discussing the Anthony Joshua card out of Wembley, selling 96,000 tickets to watch what is inevitably the biggest fight of 2025. And of course, many other fights that are happening this weekend, including, of course, Jaime Munguia's fight coming back after his loss to Canelo Alvarez. Obviously, following Canelo Alvarez after his performance against Berlanga last week, he's just going to give even more attention to Munguia this week. Munguia is kind of sliding over to fight on Top Rank, which is unusual, but obviously he's going to be in with a very good 168-pound opponent. And right now, at 168 pounds, a lot of the talk and conversation is about what are these second-tier fighters going to do, who's going to match up with whom. There's talk about, obviously, Berlanga potentially fighting Caleb Plant. That just came out, obviously, after this weekend's fights. There's been talk, obviously, about Jaime Munguia fighting Christian Mbili, who is a top-ranked fighter. So that could be the reason why he is fighting on this top-ranked card, to give Top Rank some attention to help build up a potential matchup between their fighter, Mbili, and obviously Golden Boy's fighter, Jaime Munguia. However it unfolds, this is great news for boxing fans. It just means more great matchups in one of the best divisions in boxing, 168. I mean, obviously a lot of the guys that are that second tier are not necessarily guys that are world known or American recognized. But if you follow the sport of boxing, you understand the quality of the fighters at that level and how matchups between them are great. And we can't wait to see some of these fights unfold. So let's see who's jumped on. Zaki's in the house. I think Zaki's got no job. Zaki's always around. Welcome, my man. So obviously today we're going to be talking about some big fights. Yes, Richard Torres, the U.S. silver medal Olympian, is going to be on the undercard for that Munguia fight. And he's stepping in to face a quality opponent, a guy he should beat, but nonetheless, a good opponent nonetheless. So let's take a quick peek at some of the fights that are happening this weekend, break it down, chop it up. So here we go. AJ looks like a fucking machine going into this fight. And so does Daniel Dubois. That's why this fight is so intriguing. Last night, I was walking the dog pretty late, maybe 12 o'clock at night. It's Moon Festival in Taiwan, so everybody was out having street-side barbecues. If you've never been to Asia, you don't understand. Barbecues are a little different here. People don't have backyards, so literally they have these coal barbecues right in front of their houses, basically right on the street. And you got like 10, 15, 20, 30 people out there barbecuing on little small grills. That is the Asian way. And for Moon Festival, that's what people do. They get together, barbecue, and have drinks. I was out walking my dog before going to bed, and I ran into an English friend of mine, Paul, who I've known for a long time. And he is literally the only guy that I can talk about in Taiwan about boxing. Really, he's a real hardcore guy. Used to be an MMA fighter, so he really likes combat sports. So we were chopping it up, and it got me super excited about this matchup. Obviously, talking to a UK guy, they're a lot more hyped about this fight between AJ and Dubois. From the American YouTube channels, unfortunately, you're not seeing too much conversation about this fight at all. But this is a legitimate 50-50 fight. I'm an AJ fan, been an AJ fan from day one. But this is dangerous. Anything could happen in this fight. Literally anything. Leave in the comment section below, who do you think is going to win between Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois? Mars, what's up, my man? Sean, are you my main man, even though we don't always agree? Dude, there's no problem disagreeing. as long as people are respectful, and that's all. I mean, got to understand that people are never going to agree, and that's okay. I don't understand some of these YouTubers that are super sensitive, and if you don't agree with them, the first thing they do is block you. John McSmith's in the house. What's up, John? Welcome. AJ by KO. They did a good job building AJ back up after the Usyk losses. Ben Davidson was much between for AJ, much better than Derek James. I think, truthfully, the chemistry and just the connection between Ben Davidson and AJ's looked really good, and I definitely think potentially this could be that kind of change that really helps AJ go on to reach his potential. Because obviously, the excitement about AJ when he first came out of the Olympics as a gold medalist was his potential to help boxing rise. Because we know boxing rises based on the heavyweight division. And obviously, the Americans were bent out of shape because he's not American. So they tried to shoehorn Deontay Wilder into the conversation. And then, of course, when Andy Ruiz, as a short term opponent or a replacement opponent, upset the apple cart and stopped AJ, at that point, it looked as if AJ might go in a different direction, like many great UK heavyweights who had huge potential and were getting hyped up, but ended up turning into subpar opponents. But obviously, he's bounced back, looked great. Even his losses against Usyk, you can't really hold them against him because Usyk obviously just went on and beat Tyson Fury. So that sort of takes some of the bitterness out of those pills. Let's just put it that way. Sean, did you learn how to unblock yet? The thing is, when I go into the conversation, they say you need to go into the conversation and unblock the guy based on messages, right? And I've done that several times. So I'm not sure if it's worked or not, but that's the only thing. Like, you can Google it and see. It's not a straightforward process. I don't know why. I don't know why they make it so complicated to unblock. Before, you used to be able to go into YouTube and it would list all the people you blocked and you could just unblock them from there. But apparently now, especially maybe because it's through StreamYard, yeah, it's become super complicated. My bad, my apologies. But it was all those clone channels, right, that just complicated things and had me blocking people that obviously didn't deserve to be blocked. Hey, Newton. Oh, yeah. I'm predicting AJ round 6 knockout. Dubois getting slept like Francis Ngannou. That McSmith user is here. McSmith, legend. Iceman, legend. Zaki. What's up, Sean? Hollow Ninja. What's up? Who has the IBF belt in the heavyweight division? Right now, it's Dubois. He is the guy that was made the heavyweight champion by the IBF. That's why AJ can become a 3-time champion when he beats him. I have massive respect for AJ because he saved boxing by smoking Francis. IBF is Dubois. I believe so, yes. Okay, Hawker Mustang was asking. Yeah, I miss Hawker. I've tried a lot. And then, you're Googling and trying to find out how to fucking circumvent this situation. And it was like, man, come on. Why is it so complicated? It should not be that complicated to block someone and then unblock them. It should be an easy enough process, especially when it's your channel, right? It'd be different if it was like one of my wrench guys. Then you would expect that, they couldn't do it, but that I could. But if anyone finds out a solution, please let me know. Contact me. IBF can strip everybody but Spence. Well, Spence and Charlo, right? That's the irony in that conversation. That people celebrate the IBF for stripping, Canelo, celebrate the IBF stripping Bud Crawford, and then they ignore the double standard that when Spence and Charlo were unified champions and IBF champions, the IBF gave them a complete pass and not once even forced them to fight their mandatory. Spence held that belt for 5 years without fighting an IBF mandatory. He fought one at the beginning. Who's on the AJ undercard? Well, let's get to it since we're all here. So here we go. Obviously, AJ versus Daniel Dubois, 28-3 versus 21-2. These guys are really both on that precipice of becoming not superstars, because AJ is already a superstar, but for Dubois, a win over AJ would really elevate him career wise and legacy wise. For AJ to become a 3-time champion, put him right in position to now try to unify versus the winner of Fury and Usyk would be, again, gigantic. If it's Fury, I'm not a hater of Usyk. It's just I understand how beneficial this would be for boxing if Fury beats Usyk in the rematch and then Fury and AJ match up for undisputed. That shit would be gigantic. It would be global. It would be the biggest boxing event you could do. And obviously, that in turn would be great for the sport of boxing. Great. Um, Obviously, these two guys are behemoths. They are ultimately what you want to see heavyweights look like, guys that are chiseled out of rock, right? Athletes. And now, obviously, both hard punchers. Um, but you have to sort of favor AJ at this point because of his better technical ability, better footwork, the ability to use his feet, whereas Daniel Dubois is a little bit more of a plotter, a straightforward fighter, right? Uh, Brandon, the Looney Tunes man, could show up. It's a good undercard. Bud got stripped in less than 3 months. AJ and Fury, they need something bigger than Wembley. Well, that's it, right? Like, I mean, Wembley is pushing that 100,000 capacity right now with Dubois and AJ. If you have Fury and AJ, Jesus fucking Christ, man, that thing is going to be gigantic. They're going to have to build a new stadium. But here's the undercard right there. Let's just take a quick peek of that. So obviously, I highlight the 4 biggest names on it, not specifically their opponents, but you could see they put some definite UK backing behind this. And I understand why Americans wouldn't necessarily be super excited about this card, right? Because obviously this is a UK based card, as a lot of the cards from Saudi Arabia tend to be, because obviously they're on the same time frame, and because of that, they're the biggest market available to highlight these cards. But when you got good fighters with potential, obviously Warrington was a world champion, so he has name recognition. Obviously, Josh Kelly at one time was a really hyped, up and coming UK fighter. Obviously, has lost a lot of ground since then, been inactive, hasn't really done much, and sort of, his career has kind of went down the toilet in a sense. But then you have guys like Watsy, who is right there right now as one of the top light heavyweights in boxing, is almost guaranteed an opportunity to fight the winner of Beterbiev versus Bivol, depending if it's him, Canelo, or Benavidez. One of those 3 is most likely to be the opponent for the winner. And then, of course, one of the best middleweights in boxing, Hamza Shiraz, a guy I would love to see get a Janibek fight. All right, and the only way Janibek is going to get big money fights is if he works together with Saudi Arabia, and this would be the perfect opponent for that fight. Obviously, Janibek is a unified champion. Hamza Shiraz, very exciting fighter. The opponents, not bad. Tyler Denny, obviously a UK opponent, which is going to get excited, UK boxing fans excited to see Hamza Shiraz fight another domestic opponent. Anthony Kakakte, who just beat Joe Cordina, stopping him in surprising fashion, meeting Josh Warrington. Warrington obviously has the huge fan base behind him. That's going to be a big selling point. But at this point, Warrington is well past his prime. What they were really hoping for was a Joe Cordina Warrington fight. But unfortunately, that's not the way things unfolded. Josh Kelly had a different opponent. Unfortunately, he got hurt. So Ishmael Davis is going to be his replacement opponent. This could easily be an upset. Nobody knows what to really expect from Josh Kelly at this point of his career. And then if you have Buatsi versus Willie Hutchinson, who's already been on these Saudi Arabian cards, was very good in his last performance. Now you throw him in with Buatsi, and this is a really good light heavyweight matchup. And obviously the winner of this is almost guaranteed a world title shot. And then, of course, Turki Al-Sheikh's favorite fighter, Mark Chamberlain, who I think this is the 3rd time he's been put on one of the Saudi Arabian cards. So that man is getting, taken care of financially thanks to him being a fighter that Turki Al-Sheikh really likes in with Josh Padley. So, as I say, this is a solid UK domestic card. You can understand it's being driven for the UK pay-per-view market. It's being driven for that Wembley Stadium crowd. And obviously you got Dubois and AJ, which is just literally, I think, the biggest fight of 2024. Tell me what fight you think is bigger, more of a 50-50 fight, more potentially entertaining, and more dangerous than this fight. I don't know if there is one, but let me know what you think in the comments below. Butterbean is a gold standard for a standard heavyweight physiques. Not the golden standard. If you're going to talk like John Boxing, you got to say golden standard. He doesn't understand the context of that whole metaphor. Josh Kelly is still fighting. Oh my goodness! Exactly. Since he got beat by David Avician, he's kind of disappeared. I don't know if he was trying to improve his style, but this was a guy that came out, had that super exciting Roy Jones-esque type of style, but obviously got exposed really early in his career, and I don't know what he's been doing recently. Like you said, if you live in America, most likely this undercard won't jump out to you, but $20 bucks can't beat that. Well, that's true. If it only costs you $20 on the zone, it's affordable. It ain't expensive, and you get to see one of the best heavyweight matchups probably in the last 10 years, and a fight that could be one of the best heavyweight fights in history. Easily. That fight could be sensational. Hamza Shiraz, next fight should be Adames or Laura. Well, Mars, let's be honest. The PBC fighters aren't going to be fighting anyone unless it's an in-house PBC opponent. So the most likely opponent for him would be Janibek. Janibek, somebody who wants big fights, and obviously he's not getting those opportunities. So if he wants those, he's going to have to connect with Turki Al-Sheikh in the Saudi Arabian cards, and that's really the only way he's going to get the love and attention he deserves, because the American market is never going to support a guy like Janibek. Never. He's not the power puncher that a Golovkin was. He's an Eastern European, so we see how the American market deals or embraces European fighters. Not much. So he'd be much better to focus on fighting over there for now. Where are we? I'm hearing rumors that Mario Barrios ducked boots. I got to do some research. Well, all three champions ducked boots. They were all offered. Barrios, Stanionis, and Howard were all offered fights with Boots Ennis. They all went in different directions. Obviously, we know Mario Barrios apparently is going to be fighting, yes, Ramos on that Netflix card under Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. Yeah, they just made Barrios versus Ramos. Sean Newton versus Lilly on the Usyk Fury undercard. I could never hit my baby. If AJ wins in the first ballot, Hall of Famer. Easily. I mean, he's got the best resume in heavyweight boxing out of, fighters who've been in that division for the last, 10 years. What heavyweight has a better resume than him over the last 10-year period, right? Even if he took losses to Usyk, he's fought Usyk. He's fought Pulev, Povetkin, Dillian White, right? Like, literally, he's fought everyone except Fury and Wilder because they were too busy blackballing him to do that 3-fight deal amongst themselves. Better BF by around 12 KO. I pray. I haven't seen a JB video in a while. Still some talking points. Same old shit. That's true. Maybe Turkey Money will catch Laura Adames' attention. Forget about Al Heyman. I prefer Hamza versus Janibek for Undisputed. Yeah, I can understand that, but you're being a little too optimistic if that's what you think is going to happen in truth, right? Like, it's better to take what you can get now as opposed to dream about potentially what in a perfect world we could get. Bud versus Canelo next, hopefully. It could be, right? Obviously, Turkey is coming around to pushing that fight still, which means that financially he's going to be making better offers to Canelo. We know that for Bud Crawford, this is the fight he wants. It's a big marketable fight. I don't think it's a fight that is the best fight that can be made, but marketability wise in America makes sense. I get it. Uh, Better Biev said he wants Usyk, said he has a weak stomach. He should know, right? He fought him in the amateurs, so he knows firsthand. The Berlanga fight was amazing, but the fight showed me how Bud will school Canelo. Really? Bud Crawford is a way smaller fighter than Berlanga. Those body shots, that left hand, those punches are going to have a much bigger impact on Bud Crawford than they did on Berlanga. Better BF beats Bivol. I could see him versus Opataya at cruiserweight. That was also mentioned, a potential Opataya fight. He said that he was offered that fight. We know that obviously Bivol was offered that fight as well. If Better BF beats Bivol and can't get a Canelo Alvarez fight, or even a David Benavidez fight, then the best bet would be for him to move up and try to take on a Zerdo or an Opataya. But can he make the weight comfortably? Is he going to be a legitimate cruiserweight fighter? I mean, against a guy like Zerdo, who's also come up, okay, but against Opataya, that might be asking too much for a guy to go up so much in weight. Amazing. It's the best fight to be made. Winner wins the era. Bud Crawford versus Canelo, you mean? Canelo comes forward with that high guard. I don't know what Bud can do, especially because I don't think he has the same legs. Well, he doesn't seem to have the same legs that he once had, so he's not going to move that much. And because he's not able to move that much, means that he's going to be in range for the counter. Is his power going to carry up and be effective enough to really impact Canelo Alvarez? I don't think so. Bud isn't going to be hit by all the body shots. Berlanga kept doing the same thing the whole fight, making it easy for Canelo to read him. See, if this was a younger Crawford with great legs, able to use his long jab, box, move circles, force Canelo to consistently change and never set his feet, I could agree with you. But at this point, I don't know if that's the same Bud. I think Better BF will retire if he beats Bivol, leave on a high note. Well, he should still fight Canelo, right? Because that would be the huge payday to finish his career. So I would like to see him fight Canelo Alvarez. Obviously, it's a tough fight for Canelo to fight a beast, a monster, a guy so bigger and such a hard puncher. But stylistically, that fight would be fucking entertaining. And if that is the fight that Canelo gets knocked out, great fighters have been knocked out. Pacquiao, Duran, Tommy Hearns. Knockouts are not the end of the world. Bud counters are way better. What happens if Bud takes away Canelo's jab? Canelo is not going to use his jab against Bud Crawford, who's going to fight out of a southpaw pose. He's going to use straight rights and then left hooks, right? Canelo already said he wants a rematch with Bivol if he beats Better BF at 175. Yeah, and that fight obviously makes sense. But stylistically, I still think that Canelo has a better chance against Better BF than he does against Bivol, right? Not to say that he wins either one of those fights, but I think because of Better BF's style, a guy who's much more in front of you, he would allow Canelo a lot more opportunities to counterpunch. And we've seen Better BF get dropped before. So it's not as if the possibility of him getting hit by counters and dropped by Canelo is unrealistic. The one thing we can say is we've never seen Canelo get dropped. So in a fight between these two guys, Canelo's chin might be the difference in that fight. Canelo might be the guy with a stronger chin than Beterbiev and be able to take his power, whereas maybe Beterbiev is not going to be able to take his. Maybe. I said, this is speculation. That left hook that dropped Berlanga had him limiting that right hand after. That left hook he caught Berlanga with reminds me of a GGG punch. Oh, yes, the big hooks onto the head. But I always said I was truly think Canelo believes if he takes Bivol seriously, he can beat him. The problem is Bivol has faster hands, puts his punches together, straight, direct, has better feet, is able to control the distance. He's just a taller, longer fighter. So it's always going to be stylistically a tough fight for Canelo. Whereas Beterbiev, he throws a jab coming forward, closing range. That allows Canelo the opportunity to counter and have an effective jab as well, because obviously it's orthodox fighters matching up. I think it's just stylistically a way better fight. And that's why when people talk about him ducking David Benavidez, I'm like, what do you mean ducking? David Benavidez stylistically is a way better style matchup for Canelo than the majority of people he's been fighting since he moved to 168. Because it's a flat-footed fighter who doesn't have great footwork, right? So he's not going to be able to utilize that over Canelo Alvarez. The only thing he has over Canelo is that extra 25 pounds. But does he have the power that people make him out to have? I don't know, right? He's got dropped as well by punches that weren't Canelo Alvarez's level. So, that fight makes sense. I think it's a very good style matchup for Canelo to win. Bud has the highest IQ in the sport, no doubt. I think Usyk has the best IQ personally. Yeah, Lomachenko has great IQ. There's lots of guys with great IQs, but Bud, great IQ. Bud has the most vast skill set in boxing history. Boxing history? Damn. That's quite the statement. I don't know if that's true, but it's Beterbiev chinny. He'd been dropped, wobbled multiple times, but recovered fast. Sure, yeah. But the point is, we've seen him get dropped and hurt. When was the last time you've seen Canelo Alvarez get hurt? And he's been in with big punchers. Golovkin, Kovalev, right? Other guys that are big punchers as well. And we've never seen him really even phased. I'm not saying that Canelo would knock out Beterbiev. I'm just saying we've seen Beterbiev have his chin tested by Anthony Yarde most recently, right? So the possibility of him getting chin checked is there. And the fact that he's draining himself down to 175, he feels confident he could make cruiserweight, which shows you that, he is really losing a lot of weight and water to make this, which could make him susceptible. I think Canelo would love to stick it to Benavidez and take the Bivol fight away from him if he wins. I don't think it's that deep. The point is Benavidez could still get that fight. He was already offered the fight. But the problem with him is he hasn't even said that he wants it. Turki Al-Sheikh offered you the fight, and he's been fucking mum as far as if he's legitimately going to take that fight. We know what he's legitimately doing. Fighting on Tank Davis PBC fucking pay-per-views. That's what he's doing. When has he shown any interest to cross over to fight on a Saudi Arabian card? Never. And I don't think he's going to. I think it's more likely that he fights some PBC opponents at 175 pounds and continues doing that. Guys like Jesse Hart and then potentially David Morrell. Maybe even a guy like fucking, what's his face? Who's the guy that Beterbiev beat? The PBC fighter. Hasn't been that active lately. Good black fighter from the States, right? Somebody like him. But, yeah. I don't know if Canelo is that concerned about David Benavidez. Right now, what he's talking about is potential Conor McGregor fight, right? So maybe he's going to go that route. because he sees what's going on there and he's like, whatever, I don't need you fucking guys. I'll fight Conor McGregor. It'll be one of the biggest fights in boxing. Probably one of the biggest fights in boxing history. You hear about Barrios fighting on Paul versus Tyson on the card? I did. It's good that they're adding some legitimate fights on that card. Obviously, Netflix, it's going to be huge. This potentially, I won't say it's the biggest fight in boxing history because that fight was Ali versus Frazier, which 1 billion people watch globally. 1 billion people watch that fight globally. So Netflix obviously could do huge numbers. But for them, huge numbers would be what? 10 million viewership on Netflix, which would be huge. If Netflix does that fight and it does 10 million views, that shit is fucking incredible, right? And it just shows you that, if you have some imagination, you can do fights and put fights on platforms that generate a lot of money and a lot of attention. Even though who really wants to see Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson? Not me. I want to see Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor. And I'm not even a big women's boxing fan, but that fight transcends female versus male. It's just a great matchup. And I would not be surprised if Katie Taylor gets knocked out by Serrano in that rematch. But we'll see. Let's keep scrolling through. So here's the other card, a top-ranked card, obviously being headlined by a Golden Boy fighter, Jaime Munguia, 43-1, stepping in with my Canadian brethren, Eric Bazinian, 32-0-1, I think 23 KOs. This is a very good matchup, right? This is the epitome of what I've been saying for a long time. When you think about the 154-pound division, the 168-pound division, and you get past those top guys, the Tank Davis, Lomachenkos, Shakurs, the Benavideses, and the Canelos, even though I'm not sure if Benavidez is really at that level, but we'll put him up there for now. And then you look at the guys underneath. There's a lot of depth in talent. They may not be elite superstar type of fighters, but some super entertaining fighters. Bazinian, people don't know him. He's going to sort of be looked past. But nonetheless, this is a great opponent. Munguia bouncing back after his first career loss against Canelo Alvarez, stepping in with a hungry Canadian kid with some power. And if he wins this fight, most likely this means that he's going to be fighting Christian Mbili. And that shit's dynamite. We already talked about earlier the fact that they're talking about potentially Berlanga versus the guy that Caleb Plant fought, Trevor McCumbee, which would be a great bounce-back fight for Berlanga. And they also talked about potentially making that Berlanga-Caleb Plant fight. Obviously, I'd love to see Caleb Plant fight Charlo. That fight would be big, makes tons of sense. In-house PBC fight. That shit, especially if Charlo is going to come back on that Tank Davis fight in December, would be the fight that I'd be pushing for. And I do expect that probably is the fight that the PBC is hoping to make. What is the update on Funduro the Duck, Sean? I haven't heard anything specific, but I think everyone knows that he's not going to try to defend his WBO title versus Bud Crawford. What do you think about Sean Berlanga rehydrating to 190-plus pounds? So why is Benavidez rehydrating a problem? See, that's the twist that guys like you are putting on this. There's no problem fucking that he rehydrates 25 pounds. That wasn't what Canelo Alvarez was saying. He was saying that David Benavidez doesn't bring anything to the ring except 25 pounds more. This is a guy that doesn't bring a lot more money to the table. He's not going to make Canelo Alvarez more money than he made versus Munguia or Berlanga. But he's going to expect way more money than either one of those two fighters got paid, right? But what does he bring? Just 25 pounds extra. That's all. He doesn't bring a title. He doesn't bring a big fan base. He doesn't bring fucking a big platform. He doesn't bring anything except Canelo haters. Literally, that's all he brings. There's no difference between Munguia, Berlanga, and fucking David Benavidez, except that Munguia had the Mexican fan base. Berlanga had the Puerto Rican fan base. Benavidez doesn't have fucking any fan base. And we saw that by his piss poor pay-per-view events, which actually should have been great because he was in with really, really good opponents, Plant and Andrade. Yet both of those pay-per-views bombed like fucking crazy, which is why now he's destined to spend the rest of his life on the undercard of Tank Davis. If this Tyson versus Jake is huge, could you see Netflix being a player in boxing moving forward? For big events, definitely. You could definitely see them being a platform that Turkey al-Sheikh and Saudi Arabia starts to utilize more. Benavidez would wash Canelo at 168 right now. Oh, sure he would, J.A. Sure he would. Based on what? Based on the fact that he couldn't knock out Caleb Plant? Based on the fact that he went up to 175 and couldn't knock out a guy who'd just come out of 4 years of retirement? What has David Benavidez done recently that makes you feel that he would wash Canelo now? We know as a Canelo hater, what you say means nothing, right? Truthfully. Go watch the video I just uploaded today. It'll break down all this BS that guys like you are pushing. Canelo Alvarez, since 2020 to 2024, has done more than every single fucking fighter in boxing. There's no other boxer that's fought better competition and done more over that period of time. But yet he's the one that's consistently criticized and ridiculed. For a guy like Benavidez, go see what he's done in 2024, right? Nothing. There's tons of fighters who've done way more than he has. But okay, the Canelo hate never stops. I get it. This is not even a Canelo Alvarez fight, but somehow guys like you make it about Canelo. Yet we're talking about AJ and Dubois and now Munguia. 168 is an underrated division with young contenders: Munguia, Iglesias, Lester Martinez, Mbili, Pacheco. Yeah, you throw in Berlanga in that mix as well. And there's a lot of other guys as well. So it's super exciting. That's why I didn't want David Morrell and Benavidez to leave, because with them in that mix, shit's deep. Lester Martinez trains regularly with Terrence Crawford. Rio, don't think Canelo Benavidez is a way bigger fight than Berlanga money-wise. It's not a way bigger money fight money-wise. How much more money is Canelo Alvarez going to generate on that fight, knowing that he's going to have to pay Benavidez more money? So his profitability may decrease because now he's got to pay Benavidez more money to make the fight. Benavidez doesn't bring anything to the ring. He's not fucking a big crowd favorite. You know how we know that? Because we've seen what his pay-per-view numbers have done. Shit. Garbage. And he was in with legitimate opponents. It wasn't like he was put in with cherry picks. These excuses remind me when Floyd fans defended him ducking Thurman and Spence. See, that's the difference between you, J.A., pushing a narrative. I just told you. You tell me one fighter in boxing now in the last 4 years who's done more than Canelo Alvarez. Who's he ducking if he's been fighting way more champions and winning belts and fighting more fucking world champions than anyone else in boxing? Right? Guys like you, the same as Floyd Mayweather guys, who hated Floyd regardless of who he fought. This is what's going on with Canelo now. Doesn't matter who he fights. He fight Benavidez. Guys like you are going to make excuses why it's a shit fight after the contract gets signed. Saying the opponent brings nothing to the table and then fighting a guy who brings even less to the table. Who brings even less to the table? Munguia and Berlanga? They don't bring less. They have built-in fan bases, something fucking David Benavidez doesn't have. He's not loved and supported by Mexican Americans because he's not fucking Mexican American. His Honduras fan base is not that big. Sorry. Floyd would duck Bud at 140, 147. Bud versus Floyd at 147. Canelo is an ATG. I'm not disputing that. Lots of elite boxers right now are fighting mediocre comp. Yeah, and he's fighting better than all of them. Anui, Crawford, fucking everybody top of the game. Usyk, he's doing more. You can go watch the video and find out. I just want Benavidez. Good. I don't hate on a David Benavidez-Canelo fight. But didn't you just say that Benavidez was going to get pushed out of a potential fight with the winner of Bivol and Better BF, which means you think that fight's going to happen and you want that fight to happen. And you think Canelo's going to jump in front of him to take on that fight. So you don't want to see Canelo fight the winner of Bivol versus Better BF? Benavidez is better than that opponent? Or you don't want Canelo to jump ahead because Benavidez has shown you that he's so interested in working with Saudi Arabia to make big fights, right? You can't fucking shoot yourself in the foot and then blame it on someone else. What's up with clowns saying Inui is ducking Shushu and Comel? We don't even need to listen to that. That's the same old pro-black YouTubers that just fucking hate on everyone that's not black. And they're just looking for someone to beat Inui. Just like these guys, JA and others, are looking for someone to beat Canelo. But Canelo's already been beaten. You don't need to fucking say that he needs to be beaten to expose him. He got beat by Bivol and Floyd. Those two losses age well, though, because look who he lost to. Not fucking bums, but okay. Jason Dayton. I haven't seen Jason Dayton in a million years. Pound for pound, based on achievements and skills. Arthur Olzik ties. You mean, who's that? You mean Usyk? Ties. Tie between Canelo Crawford. The rest, well, it's a pick'em. Is Benavidez versus Jesse Hart going to be on Tank's next fight card? That's what's being reported. And that's a good fight. A guy from Boxing Voice reported that Benavidez fired his dad and now is training with Calvin Ford. No, I don't know if he fired his dad. But obviously, it would not be a surprise if he's working with a different person. A guy from, that's total bullshit. Usyk is doing way more than Canelo as of late. Since losing the Bivol, Canelo has been on a cherry-pick tour. CJ, you just can't fucking accept reality. We just talked about a 4-year period of time. Over that 4-year period of time, Usyk hasn't come close to doing what Canelo Alvarez did over that 4-year period of time. Canelo's fought in 7 world champions in 4 years, 3 mandatories, 10 fights. I know that's hard for haters to fucking absorb, right? But that's the truth. That must be hard for a simple-minded fellow like yourself to fucking digest, because you're so anti-Canelo that you will fucking make up all kinds of shit to push fucking other people in front of him just so you can bring Canelo down. And I have Usyk pound for pound number 1, so I ain't shitting and downplaying fucking Usyk. Canelo, I think currently I have number 6 on my pound for pound list. But over the last 4 years, it cannot be fucking understated what he's done in the sport of boxing. Oh yeah, Bivol or Benavidez. Usyk just got done beating AJ and Tyson Fury. Yeah, great. That's why I have him pound for pound number 1. But he hasn't done more over this 4-year period of time than Canelo Alvarez has done. He's only fought, I think, 6 times in 4 years. Canelo's fought 10 times. Inui's going to be fighting 11 times, right? Like, you got guys that are real busy, active, consistently. And then you got guys that are inactive. Bud Crawford, Usyk, fighting once a year. This is an outlier. If Usyk fights Fury twice in 1 year, congratulations. If he wins, he's easily fighter of the year. So no one's downplaying him and dismissing him. But this is 2024. Over the 4-year period of time from 2000 to 2024, nobody's done more than Canelo Alvarez. Come on, Sean. Bud Crawford is still struggling to get the top competition in the ring. Hey, Hollow Ninja, you don't need to fucking check me on that. Didn't we just have a live the other day where I was fucking going against guys like JA who were going out of their way to disrespect and downplay Bud Crawford's accomplishments? I understand why Crawford hasn't been getting the fights. He was tied to Errol Spence in the PBC. And during that period of time, he had limited opportunity to fight people. And prior to that, the PBC ducked him. And now the PBC is still ducking him. Right, Funduro? Yeah, Usyk is the best fighter in the world. Yeah, and no one says he's not. I didn't say Canelo's the best fighter in the world. I just said over the last 4 years, he's done more than everybody else. Nobody is saying Inui is ducking Carmel and Shushu. Name one person who has said that. Look at JA, so quick to fucking come to the defense of anti-Inui fans. Anti-Inui fans are everywhere, man. Just fucking deal with it. Same people that shit on Loma, shit on Canelo, shit on every non-black fucking fighter that does well in the sport of boxing. They're now shitting on Inui consistently. Yeah, I feel that Canelo will use his WBO super champion status to fight Bivol to piss off Team Benavides. Southpaw TV. Well, that guy ain't a real fucking boxing channel. I watched Southpaw TV and he never said that. He is a troll, but he's not gone that far. Question is, why you even watch him? And some other clowns, LDBC garbage. You know they have. You know they do. Stop, man. Why do you fucking need to fucking be a black Superman defender? You know there's fucking black YouTubers and black boxing fans out there that fucking consistently hate on everyone that's not a black fighter. You know that. Just like there's channels and people out there that consistently hate on black fighters. We just fucking had a debate defending Bud Crawford recently against people that consistently disrespect him. People actually listen to him for boxing info. I don't know why anybody would even listen to that dude. He's a fucking clown. I only go to Southpaw to get a good laugh out loud. I still say Pac-Man is number one. Me too. I love Tank, but he ain't doing baloney. Yeah, he's on my list as well. What he hasn't done. Devin Haney, in comparison, has fucking done way more than Tank Davis over the last 4 years. What Devin Haney has done is fucking something to salute a young fighter to do. He's literally done what we want young fighters to do. Take on real competition, not cherry pick fucking his way to greatness. Thank you, Sean, for being honest on your pound for pounds. Always. A tournament at featherweight, all four champions. Who do you think would win all four belts? You know, I think it's one of those divisions where there's no great fighter. So it'd be hard to pick who's going to win. It could be an outlier, Shushu or Robsy Ramirez, right? As opposed to one of the champions. It's not Bud's fault that he fights once a year. None of his plans worked. Yeah, and Hollow Ninja, come on. Am I hating on Bud? Am I blaming him? I'm just fucking telling you the facts. But I obviously put context in there as well. Go watch my video. Bud was planning a Spence rematch, Charlo, Zoo winner, Funduro, Zoo winner. I know. I'm surprised to hear Estrada, especially at this point of his career, doesn't want the Bam rematch. He must know he is too much. I think so. And as I said, I think he might be trying to go to bantamweight to win another division and then maybe try to rematch Roman Gonzalez for unification. Sean, why are you asking me why I watch Southpaw TV? You make videos on John boxing every other day. John ain't fucking Southpaw. Let's be fair. John's full of shit and he's totally a race baiter who only sees through color fucking lenses. But fucking Southpaw is a degenerate, a scumbag. Nobody should give that dude any fucking attention or money at all. He's the kind of channel John Boxing and others should get closed. Not my fucking channel. That dude who fucking talks about killing a fucking kid. He's a scumbag. Straight up. Oh my fucking God. I forgot Inui. It would be Arthur, Usyk, Inui, Canelo, Crawford, and again, the rest is the PCM as you see. Yep. Wasn't Southpaw calling Inui kamikaze Jap sushi during the Fulton promotion? Of course he was. He's a fucking racist. Devin asking $4 million to fight Paro after what $2.4 million purse bid for Sandor is a bit too much. Yeah, I know, but he is going to Australia, so you got to keep that in context. Australian government, they tend to fund big events in Australia. So if that's the case, you might as well push for something that makes it worthwhile, right? Canelo would beat Bud down. Canelo's a very slick pressure fighter. Crawford won't have the power to keep him off. Also, Canelo is one of the best combo punchers in boxing today. I tell people that Bud would have been at 160, undisputed already. I don't know. I don't think he beats Janibek, and that's no disrespect. There's weight classes for a reason. Stylistically, Janibek ain't fucking going to be easy for Bud Crawford. You're glazing Crawford too much. Take a rest. Hop on his dick because he is at the tail end of his career. Well, JA, come on. You glaze people like crazy. So you calling out other people for glazing? Come on, man. But let's look at the rest of this Munguia card while we're here. For top ranked cards, this is pretty disappointing. You can see they're really pushing the Latin American aspect to this card, really trying to sell it to the Mexican American fan base. Really, the only big names on this are obviously Munguia, Richard Torres Jr., and obviously Emiliano Vargas, Fernando Vargas's son, who is getting quite a big push as one of the top up and coming prospects in boxing today. But outside of that, guys like Steven Navarro, Art Burr Jr., Alan Garcia, Sebastian Reyes, Jorge Perez, Charlie Suarez, none of these guys have really built up any name recognition. I'm a hardcore boxing fan, and I vaguely am familiar with some of them, right? So, but to be fair, this is the kind of card that potentially could fucking be one of the best cards of 2025. These fights, majority of them could be real 50-50 matchups, great back and forth fights, fight of the year type of competition, right? Outside of potentially Munguia, Torres, and Vargas, who probably are drawing the easiest straw out of the card, right? Let's be honest, because they're the name fighters on this that obviously the top rank is trying to build up and create into stars. They're probably the guys that have the lightest touch compared to the other guys on this card. So it's going to be a intriguing card to match up with, even though it's kind of like when I would watch those RCC cards on YouTube, the cards out of Russia, and because it's Russian, it's hard to ever know who's actually fighting unless you know their face and you can recognize them. So you'd be watching fights, and fights are obviously good, but you don't really know who fucking these guys are. You're not sure what weight classes they're fighting, right? The comment section is not bad for RCC. Usually it was a lot of English speakers, but, it was a lot of fighters that you're just unfamiliar with. And that's okay. Doesn't mean boxing is bad just because you don't know somebody, right? We got a lot of people that make boxing channels on YouTube that unfortunately let their lack of knowledge allow them to shit on every other fighter in the sport of boxing. But yet, if you're a boxing fan, can't you appreciate two guys you don't know putting on a great matchup? When I used to watch Friday night fights or Tuesday night fights on ESPN as a kid, I didn't know a lot of those fighters. Those fights allowed me to be introduced to new fighters. And then by being introduced to them, now I learned who they were. Now I had more respect for these fighters because I saw them in the ring. This is the same scenario here. Solid card on free TV. Props to Top Rank. Exactly. Loma, Tio, Devin, Cambosis, all these guys went for greatness. I honestly got to respect them more than Tank. Yep. I didn't hear your take on Fulton versus Castro fight. Fulton lack of power at 126. Could do you see him doing? Well, I always said that Fulton's a good fighter, but I never really saw him as a great fighter because he didn't have really much power. And I questioned how effective he was going to be going up to 126 against naturally bigger fighters. Obviously, what he's going to have to do is put on muscle and strength in a positive way, kind of like what Inui does, right? Inui doesn't rush through weight divisions. He allows his body to mature and trains up. So when he moves into another division, physically he's ready for it, right? And I think obviously Fulton needs that. But one of the biggest problems with him is he was coming off of a fucking long ass layoff. He needs to be more busy. He needs to get in the ring more. If Tank is pulling down Al Rayo, I lose more respect for the guy. He ain't pulling down Al Rayo. He's moving up to face Al Rayo for the 140-pound title to become a legitimate 3-weight world champion. And I just saw JB today talking about how he hopes Tank Davis fights Al Rayo because that's a great fight. But he doesn't want to see Tank Davis fight De Los Santos, the guy that knocked El Rayo the fuck out, right? I understand El Rayo, marketability wise, is a better opponent than the Dominican fighter. He has more of a built-in fan base, but stylistically, you know, El Rayo looks like he got no fucking chin. If AJ beats Dubois and Usyk beats Fury, it's very likely it's going to be AJ versus Usyk 3. I think AJ wins the Trilly match. He's younger, taking less punishment in recent fights. Well, I definitely think with the new trainer, he's going to be improved. And it'll be interesting to see physically what Dubois Fury fights would physically have a toll on Usyk. So I could easily see that potentially come true. That the younger fighter, physically bigger, stronger, new trainer, built-in confidence against a fighter who's been in tougher, hard fights, and obviously that's going to start gradually having an impact on him as well. I still would love to see the Fury versus AJ fight. I do think Fury's going to beat Usyk in the rematch. I think if Loma and Tank fought, I believe Loma would beat him. Tank lives a wild lifestyle, so his skills will start to fail him compared to Loma's clean lifestyle. Tank is old, 28-year-old. Well, I think he's 29 now, but yeah, obviously that potentially could have an impact in his career. But if they fight this time right now, I think Loma's age is going to be more of a factor than Tank Davis's lifestyle. Did you see Tio and Bud getting into it? Tio has been calling out everybody lately. Well, Bud Crawford's a real one, man. He ain't backing down from fucking no one. And we know what fucking Tio's doing. He's fucking capping, right, to keep himself relevant. He's going to go on to fight some mediocre fighter on Top Rank. He ain't going to fight any of the top dudes he's talking about. And we all know that. Jay Perez in the house. Usyk looking like he slowed down a lot in that Fury fight compared to the version that Usyk, the one who fought AJ in the first fight. It's night and day. Tank and Tio, I wish. That would be a great fight. That would be a fight to make, as opposed to fucking El Rayo. Tank beating El Rayo. John will put Tank pound for pound number 1. Well, at least pound for pound number 2, behind Bud Crawford. Tank does not want to fight Tio. Why would he? Tio is a much harder fight than El Rayo. Interesting. But we will see if El Rayo fight. Tank pushing 30. Yep. I like AJ training with Robert Garcia. He was throwing 3-4 punch combos, liver shots, like a Mexican. Yeah, I just think his relationship with Fury's ex-trainer is better. They relate to each other, and I think the way he trains him is more effective. I think the version of AJ we see right now under him is better than the Garcia and better than fucking, obviously, Spence's old trainer. Tio is a great fighter, but having a close fight with Stephen Claggett does not make you ready for Bud. Well, and that's always the problem with Tio. Tio fights to the level of his opponent. And that's why people think, okay, he could fight Bud. It'd be a great fight. Yeah, at 147, when he's only coming up one weight division. But now where are you going to fight Bud? At 154? Come on, man. Get real. You're no Devin Haney and you're no Ryan Garcia. You're not that big. Physically, you can't handle jumping up those weight divisions like a Haney and a Ryan Garcia can. They can easily put on weight and fight at 147 in their rematch. It's probably going to be at 147. Whereas Tio probably could still make 135 if he was more disciplined, because he's not a big 140-pound fighter. So, him talking about all this fucking cap about going up, he should fucking focus on fighting at 140, right? If he could get a Devin Haney fight at 140, huge. A Tank Davis fight at 140, fucking huge, right? Those are historical fights. Huge pay-per-views, both of them. Let's go to the last one. Bud would destroy Tio. I think so. So last fight card this weekend, obviously Tom Loeffler card out of Ireland. Two name opponents on this card. Callum Walsh fighting a domestic level Polish fighter. Callum Walsh is a good young up-and-coming fighter, 11-0, 9 KOs. You can understand the Irish sentiment behind him, hoping he's going to be the next great Irish fighter. And then, of course, you have Ali Akhmedov, a fighter from Kazakhstan who a few years ago was really getting a big push. Currently 21-1, stopped in that one loss. Good power, good fighter. So this card, not a bad fight card. Obviously, it's USA UFC Fight Pass. I don't know how excited people will be to pay for this because the Irish fighters in the undercard, I don't know if anybody knows Craig O'Brien, Thomas Carty, Emmett Brennan, Shauna O'Keefe, and Gareth Dowling, right? So unless you're Irish, I don't know if this is going to be much of an interest to you outside, of course, of the two main fights. But in saying that, I would love to see more of Callum Walsh and Ali Akhmedov. I don't know if he's going to be a great 168-pound fighter, but as we said earlier, that's a great group of fighters at 168. You throw in another fighter in that division, and you just add depth to it and potential fights that can be made. And the great thing about those fights is they're not break your budget type of fights, right? They're fights that make sense and potentially are fun fights to make. Where am I? Let's present my screen. So, box rec, there you go. Where am I? Ben is a UK guy. It's probably easier to train AJ compared to Garcia, who has a bigger stable and can't give him full attention. Exactly. Tank probably wants Devin now after the Garcia fight. I'm surprised Ben Whitaker isn't on AJ card, but he is fighting soon. He's just on a card. Oh, I think he's on the Bivol Better Biev card. I keep telling people soon Tank is going to run out of cherry picks. Fury isn't beating Usyk in a rematch. When Fury was rolling in that 2-round time period, he looked like he was going to knock fucking Usyk out. And don't be surprised if you get more of that version in the rematch. Sean, did you get to check out the UFC Sphere? I thought it was pretty cool. Didn't see fucking anything. But then again, I don't care. I ain't interested in the UFC at all. Dana was pissed that wrestlers kept beating the strikers in the UFC. But that's the problem with UFC. Styles make fights. The wrestlers always going to beat fucking the strikers. But people only want to watch the strikers, right? You don't want to see a dude rolling on the ground for submission. You want to see fucking guys throwing hands. That's always been the problem that the UFC had. That's why they ruined fucking what's-her-face, Ronda Rousey. She was submitting people left, right, and center, but because they knew if she started striking, it would be a bigger crossover and a bigger star. So they ended up ruining her career because of it. Mars, that co-main and main were awful. I didn't see a thing. Don't know what happened. But let's take a look at this box rec rankings at 168 pounds. So right now, 168, obviously Canelo Alvarez, then Christian Mbili, who's probably going to fight Jaime Munguia, 1 versus 2. That's a great matchup. You have Ulysses Iglesias, a great fighter, but the problem with him at this point is he fights out of Germany, like William Skull. Nobody knows who the fuck he is, even though he's an exciting fighter, unlike William Skull. He's got to fight some legitimate opponents, right? He can't expect to get big name opponents because he's too dangerous and nobody knows who the fuck he is. Then you got Pacheco versus Caleb Plant. That would be a great matchup. But as I mentioned earlier, Plant's probably going to face Charlo. You still have Demetrius Andrade in there. Kevin Sajau, the tough, older, hard-punching French fighter. Berlanga. I'd love to see Berlanga versus Demetrius Andrade. That fight would be a big fight. Bazinian, Shiskin, Siligan, Steven Nelson, obviously trains with Bud Crawford, 36 years old. That dude better fucking shit or get off the pot, man. Then you got Zach Parker, who's still relevant, obviously a UK fighter. Lester Martinez, exciting fighter. Bek Malakuziev, William Skull, all the way down there at 19. the other Ukrainian fighter, Derevchenko, right? There's a lot of good fighters. And down there, you got Ali Eklemendov at 28, right? 29 years old. That dude, you could throw him in with somebody like Pedrog McCrory, who we just saw got knocked out. Darius Fulgrim, right? This kid, tons of upside, getting a lot of attention as well. 12-0, 10 KOs. Is he a top-ranked fighter? I can't remember. But obviously coming off of a win over Vaughn Alexander, Devin's brother. Then you still have, who's the man? Who did I just see down there? There he is, Elijah Garcia. I was super psyched and hyped about Elijah. I thought he was going to be the man for the PBC at 160. But unfortunately, he got beat by a split decision to Kyron Davis and chose to move up to 168. I don't know if that's a smart move, because at 160, he's got potential fights with Carlos Adames and Lara for world title fights, in-house PBC matchups. You lost to Kyron Davis, but everybody has an off night. Kyron Davis is slippery, not an easy fight. Now you jump up to 168 pounds, and we just saw there's a deep, deep, deep group of people. Even when you come down, I can't believe Felix Sturm is still fighting. But like, you come down here, and there's still a lot of name opponents that people could fight. I think this division is deep, and I just want to see people continue to get opportunities to fight one another. And then if you win, you continue to move up the rankings and get bigger and bigger fights. They need to get these old fossils out of the White House. Inflation, high taxes suck. I'd like to see Iglesias get a solid name next. Me too. Berlanga versus McCumbee in New York would be a good comeback fight. Yeah, we mentioned it earlier. That's a fight that people have been talking about. Makes tons of sense. Berlanga beats McCumbee, and now you throw him in with fucking Caleb Plant. You throw him in with Munguia. You throw him in with fucking Pacheco, right? Big fights. And obviously that's the next generation. He wins those fights, and then, all that crap about him being garbage disappears. But then again, he may get beat. Up until GGG fought Canelo, I'd say his and Tank's resumes are comparable. I know Sean ain't going to like this take. Canelo's resume and Tank's resume are comparable up until he fought GGG. Are you mental? You mental, right? You okay, buddy? You need meds? You have a doctor? Should we call someone? What are you fucking talking about? Oh, GGG and Tank. And I have Tank Davis on my pound for pound list, same way I had GGG on my pound for pound list. I had Tank Davis as one of the fighters I like watching the most in the sport of boxing, just like I had GGG, one of the most fighters I like to watch in boxing. I wanted GG to have big fights, just like I want Tank Davis to have big fights. So that doesn't bother me. Only John fucking pushes that narrative, all to do what? Shit on GGG. Elijah screwed up all my parlays that night. Yep. Danny Jacobs, better than any name on Tank's resume. No GG and Tank. I think he meant GG. Okay. Aight. So you agree. But that didn't make GG the face of boxing. He wasn't pushing pay-per-view after pay-per-view after pay-per-view. So Canelo was throwing punches like GGG against Berlanga. Sean actually does give Tank credit. A lot of guys don't have him pound for pound at all. Man, the hate I get for being a fucking racist, which is ridiculous because literally I have black family members, which makes the shit crazy and ridiculous. But okay, I'm a racist. But yet I'm more fair in my boxing takes than 90% of people on YouTube. Because I'm critical of fucking Tank Davis doesn't mean I don't support him all the time. I do. But when you're fighting a mediocre opponent on $85 pay-per-view, that needs to be addressed. Just like we addressed Canelo fighting a mediocre opponent on pay-per-view in Berlanga on what was a shit card. Turned out to be better than expected. Except, of course, for the Lara Garcia fight, which everybody knew was straight up garbage. Um, what, Sean? I think is that Tank never fought the best at the weight division. GG fought everyone at middleweight who was willing to fight. Yeah, and still unified titles on 2 occasions. Tank Davis has never even tried to fucking have a unification fight like fucking Deontay Wilder. I praise Errol Spence because he actually unified titles, right? When people unify titles, you'll notice that I give them a lot of fucking praise and a lot of attention. I get hated on for hating Devin Haney. Just because I don't think Devin Haney is pound for pound above fucking Nui doesn't mean I'm hating on Devin Haney. I just praised him on this live today. Canel's a superstar. All the stars was there. Even Bigfoot was in the ring. Iceman, yeah, I saw that. What the fuck is that? Today is Moon Festival. It's a government holiday. We should not have any big fucking tractors rolling down the street on Moon Festival. Demi Moore was still looking pretty good. She looking old. Those glasses just covered that shit up. Look closely and fucking zoom in. The team pay pound for pound is used way too loosely. Pound for pound primarily is Anui, Bud, and Usyk. Those guys moved up divisions, face tough challenges. Guys like Boots are not pound for pound. That's a fact. Not at this point. Potentially going to be, but at this point, you haven't fucking done anything. You haven't fought anyone. What is that? Probably bulldozer, because they're doing road repairs on all these side streets, putting in new underground sewage pipes. Taiwan's pipes were very old, narrow, lots of clogging. So they opened up bigger to help facilitate waste removal, I suppose, and a lot more gutter stink, and probably less cockroaches. Prime Demi was sometimes, though. I bet my house the 42-year-old Golovkin sleeps ward right now. Maybe. AJ or Dubois. Jump Tube, what's up? Of course, I'm an AJ fan, so I got to lean towards AJ. I feel he's got more ways to win. Better boxer, better mover. Going to be able to use his feet, control distance behind his jab, make Dubois chase after him, and potentially walk into something big, right? But in saying that, Dubois is dangerous. 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 Ward isn't much younger. Boxing sanctions are like politics in real world. They cause division and get in the way of progress. Facts. Boxing sanctioning bodies, you mean. You better hide your dog. They might try to eat her. They are eating the dogs and cats here. The Haitians? We don't have no Haitians around Taiwan, not yet. Maybe soon. Right now we have lots of Swazis and South Africans, because in Taiwan, literally there's no country in the world that has more universities per capita than Taiwan has. Asian education. But unfortunately, they don't have as much kids now, so universities are empty. So they're giving basically free education to Southern Africans and a lot of Central Americans. So now when I look outside, there's a lot more diversity than there used to be. That's for sure. Sup? They eating the dogs, man. I see that. I saw a video where like somebody's roasting a dog in a spit. Those people, they should be shot and sent back to Haiti in fucking bags. I'm thinking about joining the Venezuelan gang. Psh. The States is fucked, man. Fucked. You know, those Democrats fucking ruined that country. And the same thing's happening in Europe. So it's not just specifically America, but like Germany. My ex-girlfriend is married, living in Germany. They're running through those countries with fucking immigrants, right? Ruining the infrastructure, ruining the country, bringing high levels of crime to do what? So they could fucking close down with police military force and do what they do in China. Inevitably, that's what's going to happen, right? They're just trying to justify it by creating a country that's fucked where they need to go in and do that shit, right? But people still vote for these governments thinking fucking Kamala Harris is going to save America. That stupid cunt. Give me a fucking break. Anyone that votes for her is fucking a mental case. You might not like Trump, but I guarantee he's going to do a better job than that fucking girl. But you see right now, Poland and Hungary, they refuse to have immigrants come into their country. And people are like, you're part of the EU. You have to have immigrants come to your country. And they're like, fuck no, we don't. We're trying to keep our history, right, and our culture. So fuck immigrants. We don't want them. We don't need them. And you can't hate on them for that, because the reality is these immigrants that come to countries bring their culture and their traditions, and then want to overwhelm the existing culture to change it to their culture. Right now you see that in Canada, right? There's no Christmas tree anymore, a lot more pressure to take on outside culture and traditions. And I'm Canadian, so I don't mind diversity. But when you look at some of these other smaller countries, I can understand why they're like, fuck that. We don't need immigrants. We're not struggling with our population. So why would we take on immigrants from fucking third world countries because of their political strife created by who? America and fucking UK and other countries that are trying to rape those countries for natural resources by creating fucking strife. But yeah, now eating cats and stuff, Haitian fucking immigrants are not helping themselves, because you do that kind of shit, now everybody fucking hates you. Literally everybody. America is screwed and I live here. Another attempt on Trump too. I heard that. What kind of attempt? London's still burning. Yeah, London is fucked. All Europe, right? Well said, Newton. The good thing about London is they fucking an island. So if they don't want immigrants to come to London, they can stop it. Can you ever have a young president with actual solutions? Gen Xers like Andre Yang or Ramashashasha would be good for office. I think what they're going to have to do is come in as VPs initially, right? To prove that, they have the background behind them. And then obviously after being VPs, then they could roll over into presidential candidates afterwards. That would be the most logical way to do it. I'm from London. Where is it burning? Well, from what we see on the internet, there's all kinds of shit going on in London about protests and everything else. But of course, that's the media. If you want to take over America, the West Coast is a place to start. More liberal laws. Biden, Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, all old fossils. True. Facts. Kamala Harris isn't old, but she's just fucking useless. She only got put into her position because she was a black woman. I meant to ask a question. Are they still burning the buses over there? I think Kamala is hot, but she loves guys like Sean, so I'm voting for Trump. You think she's hot? Twitter is full of propaganda. That's true. I believe it. People always ask me about Taiwan and China, and I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I live here. What are you talking about? What do you see that I'm not seeing? The guy in the bushes on Trump's golf course about 500 yards away, but Secret Service seen him before he got a shot. Really? Since Elon took over Twitter, it's become a breeding ground for far-right propaganda. Well, to be fair to Elon Musk, what he's done is he has allowed freedom of speech. And what you get from freedom of speech is propaganda from everywhere. Under old school media, you only had propaganda from one perspective. Now, at least, you could ignore it. I don't see too much of the propaganda on Twitter because I don't follow most of it and I don't like it. So it doesn't bombard me on my algorithm. Kamala Harris looks all right, but still she sucks. She does suck. That's how she got into that position to begin with. I think she's attractive for 60 years old. Maybe it's because she looks like my aunt. So I can't see her as being an attractive woman. Because when I see her, I literally see my aunt. And no offense to my aunt, they're different people. but I just mean physical wise, looks wise. Uh, she looks like my aunt. So then I'm like, attractive. My aunt was attractive, obviously, when she was younger, but now she's my aunt. I can see it starting to radicalize people. AOC got big. AOC is an attractive girl, but an idiot. Inflation, higher taxes, destruction. And that all came because of COVID, right? COVID, the global fucking pandemic that was sit there to do what? Continue to control, manipulate the people from around the world. My aunt is not single. She's obviously with my uncle. I'm a good man. Okay, you're a good man. Maybe you can go after one of her sisters. There's like 7 of them from Trinidad. But yeah, so enough of this. Obviously, this weekend we got some big boxing. The Munguia Brazilian fight should be pretty entertaining. I expect Munguia to be too good for him, but when you look at Eric Bazinian and who he's fought some quality opposition, right? Let's just take a quick peek since we're here. Where are you, Eric Bazinian? My Canadian cohort. 32-0-1, 29 years old, 23 KOs. Coming off of a draw. That ain't a good look. But part of that, he fought Ronald Ellis. Stopped him in 6 rounds. Beat Atlantis Fox by majority decision. Beat Marcel Corceres by 10-round decision. So he's been in with some quality opponents, right? Alan Campa, Saul Roman, right? Francine Nieto, right? A lot of guys that people are very familiar with. That sort of C-level opponent that you need to fight to move forward. But the interesting thing about the Ronald Ellis fight, who he stopped in 6 rounds, this is the same Ronald Ellis that we saw fight Christian Billy, go the distance, fight David Benavidez, and get stopped in the 11th round, right? So Bazinian had a much better performance against a common opponent than David Benavidez did. That shit could play out moving forward, you know. If he goes out there and beats Jaime Munguia, that would be huge. But nonetheless, it should be a very intriguing fight. And then, of course, AJ versus Daniel Dubois, as we've been saying all day, that shit is dangerous. 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 I would not be surprised at any result in that fight this weekend. AJ catching him with a big right hand inside 6 rounds, knock him out cold. Daniel Dubois catching AJ, beating him down like Andy Ruiz did to get a knockout win there. AJ beating Dubois by unanimous decision. I could see any of these things unfold. That shit is dangerous. How is the opponent Richard Torres is fighting this week? You know him, the short round dude from Chicago. Joey DeWecco, right? That dude. Good little boxer, but being 5'10", maybe even shorter, short arms. Obviously, it's always been a struggle for him at heavyweight, right? 28, 11 losses, only stopped 3 times, 4 draws, 16 KOs. Coming off of a win in his last fight, lost prior to that. Obviously, at this point of his career, you know, he's the kind of guy that Torres should beat. But in beating him, he's still a tough dude, right? Stephen Shaw stopped him in 8 rounds. Zan Zudabudetsky stopped him in 2 rounds, right? He went the distance with Frank Sanchez, got a majority loss to Zuman, lost to Jennings and Fedosov, right? So he's been in with good fighters, but not many dudes have destroyed him outside of this guy who is huge and Stephen Shaw, right? Whatever happened to Stephen Shaw? He was the guy that was getting a lot of attention, but was kind of exposed himself when he lost to Effie Ajagba and then ended up losing to Joseph Goodall in his bounce back fight. Since then, has bounced back, but Guys coming off of knockout losses, right? It could really ruin a motherfucker. Even this guy, Zan Skyabutsky, he ended up getting exposed, got beat in his last fight by Efe Ajagba too. Efe Ajagba is the exposer, man. He exposes everyone. Beat Joey Dwecki, stopped him in 2 rounds. Effie, he deserves a big fight. Just beat Vito, Goodall, the guy that beat Shaw, fucking Zublai, Shaw, lost to Sanchez. That's a bad loss, considering Sanchez just got humiliated. But nonetheless, I mean, Dwecki's a solid opponent, but for a guy like Torres, he should go in there and fucking get rid of him, right? Maybe not in 1 or 2 rounds, but should still be able to get rid of him eventually. Tank is easy, Sean. Got work in a couple of hours. Oh, take it easy. Cheers, Hollow Ninja. It's my holiday. I'm driving out of town, not far, 40 minutes to go to a barbecue. Uh, to better days, man. Better days. Jaime is with Top Rank, right? He's not with Top Rank. He's still with Golden Boy. But I think because they're trying to make Christian and Billy Jaime Munguia fight, part of that sort of situation was to allow him to fight on a top ranked card versus Bazinian, an easier opponent to help hype up the Christian and Billy fight, right? And maybe they'll let Christian and Billy slide over to the zone, kind of like a cross purpose type of situation. We will see. Still no word on Jang Bakoli. I heard that fight's going to be on the Usyk Fury undercard. My boy Parker still chilling. Still chilling. Della Coco needs to worry about his fighters instead of Canelo. You ain't getting him back. That's true. That's true. There's no point putting out so much hate. It just makes you look bad. Makes you look like a bitter motherfucker, right? And that shit ain't helping you. Especially you want to sign new people. You want to make fights with other people. People see what you're doing. Like Berlanga just came out and shit on him because of that take as well. Let's see if Tim Tszyu calls out Bud if he wins. No, he ain't. And I like Tim. We know Tim ain't calling out Bud. Tim Tszyu is going to do what? He's going to fight a PBC opponent, whether that's Thurman, whether that's Lubin, or whether that's a unification fight with Funduro. It is what it is. WBO should be stripping Funduro soon if he's not fighting Bud. I hope so. I hope so. Give Bud that WBA and that WBO title. Put him in position to be a unified champion. Maybe then you could justify Boots Ennis moving up and taking on him there, right? Boots Ennis was getting ducked by everybody. Let's see if Boots jumps up, takes money, big money to fight Bud Crawford at 154. Not that I think that's a fight Boots needs to take, but unfortunately, if the PBC is going to continue to fucking duck, is Spence Funduro happening? From what they're saying now, it looks like Spence is going to go up to 160 and try to fight fucking Lara. Explain that to me. That tells me they know he's not good enough to compete at 154, so they're going to put him in with a 41-year-old fucking Lara who has no drawing appeal whatsoever. So they need to put him in with somebody that can draw. That's why they put him with Danny, which was a shit show. Now they're going to put him with Spence. Look forward to fucking him beating Spence too. Tim trying to get that PBC belt before Crawford fight. I can't be mad at that. The problem is, you do that shit and you're just fucking doing the same thing Errol Spence did. It's a bad look because everyone knows you're blatantly ducking because you know you can't win. Brian Normer Sr. was on Fannin and said he wants $2.8 million, so his could clear $2 million. Do you consider him a duck? Straight duck. Straight duck. Because he ain't getting $2.8 million fucking to fight the bum ass motherfucker he's fighting next. He ain't even making $1 million probably on that card. So it's like, what are you talking about, dude? I know you got a belt, but let's be honest. Nobody knows who the fuck you are. Mario Barros is a bigger name at 147 than Brian fucking Norman is. That's straight up fact. If he drops the belt to Bud, he must have a better opponent lined up. No, No, not a better opponent, an in-house PBC opponent. Norman has overpassed Tio Sr. as the craziest boxing dad. Man, these boxing dads, the only one you can fucking look at that's not a mental case is fucking Lomachenko's dad, right? And Danui's father. Those two don't say a word. They let their sons get the fucking shine. They're not trying to steal the shine. Not going, look at me, I train him. Let me talk to the camera and give you stupid fucking takes. The rest of these dudes, they're fucking, they're living vicariously through their fucking sons. It's pathetic. They could never do it, so what they're trying to do is hype themselves off of their kids, right? You don't need to do that shit if you're there for the right reason. Anui's dad doesn't need to fucking hype himself up. His sons are doing it by being great sons. And Lomachenko, his dad don't need it. He helped Vozdik, he helped Usyk, he helped Lomachenko. His fucking legacy is defined, even if nobody interviews him because he don't want to talk to nobody. And why would he? He's not trying to be the star. He's not trying to get the fame. But, it is what it is. We'll see how this unfolds moving forward. We still have what potentially could be a great PBC card to end the year. Norman skips 1.7 million for 100,000 and might get beat. Cuevas is a live dog in that fight. Exactly. Don't be surprised if Cuevas fucking beats him, because that shit happens all the time. I remember years back, Loma said he would go back to 125 for Inui. Well, he didn't say he would go back. He just acknowledged the possibility of a Inui fight down the road. Why the hell did Eddie sign Shakur for $5 million per fight? Shakur is going to be pound for pound one of the best fighters in boxing. The question is he going to get the fights to make him a star? And stylistically, does he have the style to be a star? Take it easy. Peace to chat. Hello, Ninja. Peace out, my man. Everyone, thanks for jumping in. I appreciate it for another great live. Obviously, we have big fight cards this weekend. Hopefully, I will be going live on Sunday. So make sure you jump in. If you haven't seen my Canelo Alvarez versus the rest, go check that out. Give it a thumbs up. Give this one a thumbs up. Share to any social media platforms, boxing related, that you're a part of. More sharing is caring. Thanks very much, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.